from somewhere near page 42. A little folded paper written by you. Teacher kept talking at the front of the room, but suddenly nothing else mattered at noon. Your handwriting leaned a little to the right, blue ink fading in the summer light. Just 7 words underneath my name, and after that I was never quite the same. You wrote meet me by the old school gate, and then drew a little heart you tried to erase. I read that line a dozen times and hid that note where no one could find. The note inside my textbook still lives somewhere in my mind. A little piece of folded paper from a younger, simpler time. No roses and no promises, no perfect words back then. Just your name beside a little heart, and meet me after school in Penn. The final bell rang at 3:30. I walked outside pretending casually. You stood beneath the old shade tree, holding your books and waiting for me. We talked about homework, summer rain, the market road and the evening train. Anything except what we both knew. That little note had changed me and you. You smiled and looked down at your shoes. I had 1,000 words, but only used a few. Then we walked home beneath the sun, two shy hearts and nowhere to run. The note inside my textbook was all you had to say. A few blue words on folded paper I carried home that day. Years went by and the school closed down. New buildings rose around that town. I lost the books we used back then, but somehow I remember every word you penned. Sometimes an old notebook smell can ring that long forgotten bell, and I see your handwriting once again. Blue ink on paper, summer in my hands. I wonder if you kept one too, some little thing that came from me to you. A photograph, a name, a line, from when your young heart touched mine. The note inside my textbook still lives somewhere in my mind. A little piece of folded paper that somehow outlived time. No traced your name beside a little heart. And meet me after school in Penn. If I could open that old book once more, I'd read your little note again. I came home later than I ever meant to, but that porch light was still on. I turned off the highway after midnight, down the road I used to know, past the field and old red mailbox, where the summer weeds still grow. Years have changed the town around me. Some old places were long gone, but when I came around that final bend, the porch light was still on. I slowed the truck beside the driveway and sat there for a little while. That yellow glow across the front steps took me back 1,000 miles. The porch light was still on, like it knew I'd find my way, shining through the midnight darkness like it had in younger days. Through every road that pulled me farther, through every year that carried on, home was waiting in that window, and the porch light was still on. Mama used to leave it burning when I stayed out after dark. She'd say a light can bring you home, son, when you don't know where you are. Back then I never thought much of it, just a bulb above the door. I was young and always dreaming of a life beyond that porch. But that night I climbed the old steps, touched the railing worn and smooth, and every mile I'd put behind me couldn't hide the simple truth. The porch light was still on. Through the years I'd been away, one small light beside the doorway still remembered me that way. Was quiet in the moonlight, curtains moving in the breeze. I could hear the crickets singing from the yard beneath the trees. I stood there thinking of those evenings, running barefoot home at dark, mother calling from the doorway, and that light above her heart. Some roads teach you how to wander, some years teach you what you've lost, but one small light can tell a traveler what coming home is worth. porch light was still on, like it knew I'd find my way, shining through the midnight darkness like it had in younger days. I've crossed 1,000 distant highways, but tonight I know where I belong. Home was waiting all these years, and the porch light was still on. Saturday morning, dust on the road, market carts rolling with a heavy load. Mama gave me corns for a sack of rice. Then I saw you by that noodle sign, your hair tied back with a faded blue string. You smiled at me like it meant nothing. We slipped through the door, trying not to be seen. Two country kids chasing a little dream. We shared that ramen on market day, two wooden chopsticks, nothing much to say. You pushed the last bite over my way, and my young heart changed that day. A few small coins and your shy little grin. I still remember where our story began. I've tasted 1,000 meals since then, but none like the ramen we shared back when. Steam on the window, summer outside. You took the wooden chair next to mine. An old radio played by the open door while rain began tapping on the market floor. Your sleeve brushed mine and I nearly froze. Funny how a young heart remembers those. When someone called your family name, we ran outside laughing in the summer rain. We shared that ramen on market day. You pushed the last bite over my way. A few small coins and your shy little grin. That's where my first love began. Years rolled by and the old town changed. That little noodle shop has another name, but sometimes I drive that country road past where the market lights used to glow. I can almost smell that broth again, hear your soft laugh in the summer rain. Maybe first love was never meant to stay, but some small memories never fade. We shared that ramen on market day, two wooden chopsticks, nothing much to say. You pushed the last bite over my way, and I still remember your face that day. The whole wide world was simple back then. A few small coins and your shy little grin. If I could have one summer back again, I'd share that ramen with you again. third row back beside the window, where the summer sunlight came. I spend more time looking your way than learning dates and names. One afternoon when class was quiet, I took my pencil in my hand, and underneath that worn old desktop, slowly wrote your name. I rubbed it out before the bell, afraid somebody else might see. But faint beneath those little scratches, you were still there next to me. Your name on the school desk, written where nobody knew. A little secret in the wood grain, from a boy in love with you. No letter and no promise, no brave words I could confess, just your name beneath my fingers on that old school desk. Sometimes you borrowed my blue pencil, sometimes I carried books for you. You turn around and smile in class, and I forgot what I should do. At lunch we'd sit beneath the maple, talking till the warning bell. I nearly told you how I felt 100 times, but never did. When summer came and school was over, we walked together to the gate. You said, I'll see you after summer. Neither knew how much would change. Your name on the school desk was everything I couldn't say. A little mark from one young heart that time could never erase. Years later, I went back to town. The old school waited on the hill. Most of those rooms were locked and empty, but somehow I remembered still. I found that classroom by the window. That same old desk was pushed aside, and underneath a dozen scratches, your faded name was still inside. I stood there smiling like that boy who never knew what love would cost. Some things we write are meant to fade, and some refuse to ever get lost. Your name on the school desk, written where nobody knew. A little secret in the wood grain, still taking me back to you. No letter and no promise, no brave words I could confess, but all these years I still remember your name on that old school desk. barefoot down behind the barn, chasing one more ball across the yard. Sun hanging low above the pines, still believing daylight was all ours. Dust on our knees, grass on our clothes. Nobody wanted to be the first one home. Then evening settled over everything, and supper smells came drifting on the wind. From somewhere past the garden gate, we knew that it was getting late. One familiar voice across the yard could bring us running home. Mother calling us home for supper, while the summer sun went down. Wash your hands and leave those bicycles. Don't make me call again. Beans on the stove, warm bread on the table, porch lights shining through the screen. I didn't know those ordinary evenings would become my sweetest memories. Daddy sat tired at the kitchen chair, work shirt hanging loosely there. We'd fight about who got the biggest piece, till Mama gave us both the same. Ceiling fan turning slow above, windows open to the evening bug. She'd shake her head at all our noise, but I could see that hidden smile. After supper we'd run outside, trying to steal 10 minutes more, till darkness finally filled the yard and bare feet crossed that kitchen floor. Mother calling us home for supper, from the porch at close of day. Funny how the simplest words are the ones that never fade. Smaller now, the garden fence is leaning down. The kitchen table's long been gone, and silence lives where we once left. I've eaten in 1,000 places, driven highways coast to coast, but no meal ever felt as rich as those evenings back at home. Sometimes when the daylight fades, I almost hear her voice again, calling all us children home, before the night came rolling in.
Mother calling us home for supper, while the summer sun went down. Wash your hands and leave those bicycles.
Come inside and gather round. Beans on the stove, warm bread on the table, porch light shining through the screen. If I could hear one voice from childhood, I'd choose hers, calling out for me. Mother calling us home for supper still brings that old house back to me. That old bus stop leaned beside the road, paint peeling off where the summer wind blew. I got there early every Saturday, just hoping I'd be there before you. You came around the bend in a cotton dress, holding your books against your side. I'd pretend I was only waiting on the bus, but I was waiting for your smile. Waiting by the old bus stop, watching every mile of road. Every time a bus came rolling in, my young heart nearly broke. Then you'd appear beneath the cedar trees, and all the world would stop. I wasn't waiting for a ride back then, I was waiting by the old bus stop. We'd sit together on that wooden bench, our shoulders almost touching there. You'd talk about the places you would see while summer moved through your hair. Sometimes the bus was running late, and I secretly hoped it always would. Another 10 minutes sitting next to you felt better than a whole day could. Waiting by the old bus stop, watching that dusty road. Every extra minute next to you was worth more than you could know. Years later I drove through that little town. The old bench wasn't there, just a faded sign beside the road, and weeds growing everywhere. I pulled over for a minute or two as evening settled soft and slow, and for a moment I could see you there, like all those years ago. Waiting by mile of road. Every time a bus came rolling in, my young heart nearly broke. Then you'd appear beneath the cedar trees, and all the world would stop. I thought I was waiting for a ride back then, but now I know I was not. I was waiting for my first love by that old bus stop. I crossed the county line at sunset, with the windows rolled halfway down. The same old hills were waiting for me outside that little country town. The mill was gone, the road was wider, but the river turned the same. And every mile brought back a memory, every field whispered your name. I passed the school, the market corner, the bus stop leaning by the trees. And suddenly I wasn't older, I was 17 with you and me. Back where my first love lives, where the summer roads still wind, where a young boy left his whole heart, though he left that town behind. Every porch light, every meadow brings another memory home. Back where my first love lives is the place my heart still knows. I drove past where your house once stood, slow enough to see the gate. The cedar tree was taller now, like it had been there just to wait. I remembered walking home beside you, your ribbon moving in the breeze, sharing one umbrella in the rainfall, fireflies glowing by the creek. We never made those big old promises, we were too young to understand. But every ordinary moment still feels precious in my hands. Back where my first love lives, time moves slower in my mind. Every road I thought I'd forgotten still knows how to lead me back. you found another highway. Maybe you never left this place. Maybe time has changed your laughter, put a few lines upon your face. I didn't come to turn back years or ask what might have been. I only came to walk those roads and feel that summer once again. Some love stay only for a season, some become the road beneath. And no matter where this life may take me, part of me will always be. Summer never fades. You were walking down that country lane, books held close against your dress. Golden fields were waving in the sun, and I was trying not to stare. A little ribbon tied around your hair, blue as the summer sky. Then a warm wind came across the fields and sent that ribbon flying by. I caught it near the old fence post before it touched the ground. You smiled and said, I guess that's yours until you bring it back around. Your ribbon in the summer wind still comes back to me again, dancing like a little piece of blue across those fields where I loved you. We were young and time was slow, with nowhere else we had to go. Of all the things those years have taken, I still see that ribbon waving. I kept it folded in my shirt until we reached your gate. I wish that road was twice as long, I wish the hour was late. You tied it back around your hair and laughed beneath your breath. I wanted badly to say something, but couldn't find the courage yet. So we stood there by the cedar fence while evening turned to gold. Two young hearts with everything to say, and neither one was bold. Your ribbon in the summer wind still comes back to me again, a little blue against the sky, and one goodbye I couldn't hide. Years have changed that country road. The fields belong to someone new. The fence is leaning toward the ground, but sometimes I still think of you. I don't know where that ribbon went, or where the years have flown, but every time the summer wind moves through the fields back home, I see you walking up that lane with sunlight in your hair, and for a moment I'm that boy who wished you'd always be there. Your ribbon in the summer wind still comes back to me again, dancing like a little piece of blue across those fields where I loved you. We were young and time was slow, before we learned how people go. Of all the things those years have taken, one summer memory remains. Your ribbon in the summer wind still waves across my heart again. School lit out beneath the burning sky. You rode your bicycle next to mine. Books in the basket, dust on our shoes. I took the longer road because of you. Past the old mill and the fields of grain, down where the narrow road curved away. You rode beside me close and slow, while evening painted the hills in gold. Bicycle home at sunset, two shadows stretching down the road. You laughed whenever I rode too fast, then called for me to slow. Golden light across your face, summer wind beneath the sky. I didn't know a heart could hold a moment for a whole lifetime. We stopped beside the wooden bridge where cotton clouds turn red. You leaned your bicycle by the rail and watched the daylight fade. told me someday you'd leave that town, see places far beyond those fields. I tried to smile like I didn't care, but young hearts don't know how to hide what they feel. And then your front wheel touched against mine, and neither one of us moved away. The sun went down behind the pines, and I wished it would stay. Bicycle home at sunset, two shadows on that country road. You riding close beside me was all I needed to know. Paved and wider now, that wooden bridge is gone. The fields where we once raced our bikes have houses standing on them all. But some evenings when the sky turns red, I hear those tires on gravel again. See two young riders side by side before we knew how summer's end. I wonder if you remember too, that little road beneath the sun, how neither of us said I love you, but somehow both of us knew. If I could ride one road again, I'd take that road with you tonight. Bicycle home at sunset, still rolling through my mind. I thought I was hiding from the rain that day. Turns out, I was waiting for you. Rain came down on market day, washed the dust from every lane. I ran beneath an old striped awning, trying to keep dry from the rain. And you came running from across the road, holding your books against your side. There wasn't much room beneath that canvas, so you stood there close to mine. Water dripping from your darkened hair, a little smile upon your face. I forgot about the storm around us, standing in that narrow space beneath the market awning. While the summer rain came down, you were standing right beside me, and and I couldn't hear a sound. Not the trucks along the roadside, not the thunder rolling in. All I heard was my heart beating beneath that awning in the rain. The fruit man pulled his baskets in, shopkeepers closed their wooden doors. Rainwater ran between our shoes across that old uneven floor. You asked me if I liked the rain. I said I guess I do today. You looked away and tried to hide that little smile you gave away. We talked about school and summer plans, about nothing much at all. But I remember every word and every raindrop that would fall beneath the market awning. We watched the gray sky turn. I didn't know it then, but some memories never leave. That market street is changed by now. The old cloth awning disappeared. New windows shine where we once stood, but I still see you standing there. Whenever summer rain begins and taps against a window pane, I'm 17 beneath that roof, standing next to you again. I never held your hand that day, never found the words to say, but somehow that small rainy hour stayed with me through all these years. Beneath the market awning, while the summer rain came down, you were standing right beside me, and the whole world faded out. Not the trucks along the roadside, not the thunder rolling in, just your shoulder close beside me, and that shy old-fashioned grin. If I could have 1 hour again, I'd choose that market in the rain and stand there quietly beside you, beneath that awning once again. School was out when the clouds rolled in. Rain came hard across the town. Everybody ran beneath the roofs while I stood there looking around. I had no coat, I had no ride, just books tucked underneath my arm. And you walked over with your little blue umbrella and said, "Come on, you'll catch a cold." I stepped beneath it close to you, trying not to show my smile. That old road home was barely half a mile, but I wished it stretched for miles. The day you shared your umbrella We hardly spoke, but my heart knew something changed. I forgot about the thunder, the day you shared your umbrella in the rain. We walked slowly past the grocery store, past the church and the old oak tree. Every little puddle in that road brought you another step toward me. The umbrella wasn't quite wide enough, so my left sleeve got soaking wet. But I never moved an inch away, that's one thing I don't regret. You laughed when a passing truck splashed muddy water by our feet, and somehow that ordinary walk became my favorite memory. The day you shared your umbrella, I wish that road would never end. One small roof above two hearts, too shy to call it love back then. Years have passed since that rainy day. I've walked 1,000 roads alone. That little school is painted new, and you move far away from home. When the first warm summer rain starts falling on the window glass, I see that little blue umbrella coming toward me from the past. Maybe you forgot that walk, maybe it was nothing much to you, but a boy who never said the words still remembers every step with you. The day you shared your umbrella, the rain never felt so warm. Your shoulder brushing next to mine while we walked through that summer storm. We were young, we hardly spoke, but my heart knew something changed. If I could walk one road again, I'd choose that little country lane and walk beside you one more time under your umbrella in the rain. We had 2 coins between us on a hot July afternoon. The old store fan was turning slow beneath a faded moon. You pointed through the freezer glass at the biggest one they had. I counted every penny twice and laughed at all we had. The old man handed 1 ice cream and 1 small wooden spoon. You said we'll share it, that's enough, like young hearts always do. 2 coins and 1 ice cream, melting underneath the summer sun. You took a bite and passed it back, and somehow we became one. We didn't need a pocket full, didn't need a diamond ring. The richest boy in that whole town had 2 coins and 1 ice cream. We sat beneath the maple tree beside the general store, your sandals swinging from the bench, my boots down on the floor. A little drop ran down your hand, you laughed and wiped it clean. I tried to hide how much I liked that smile I'd never seen. You gave me half, I gave you more, till neither knew whose turn. And somewhere in that simple hour, a young heart learned to yearn. 2 coins and 1 ice cream, and nowhere else to be. A summer day, a wooden bench, and you sitting next to me. That little store is gone today, the maple's taller now. There's pavement where the gravel lay, and traffic through the town. I've bought fine dinners through the years and paid for fancy things, but nothing ever tasted quite like that old summer scene. Sometimes I close my eyes and see your smile beneath that tree, and 2 young hearts with almost nothing, living like royalty. The summer sun. You took a bite and passed it back, and somehow we became one. We didn't need a pocket full, didn't need a diamond ring. If I could buy one day again, I'd spend those coins with you, share that 1 ice cream. shoes in our hands at the edge of the road, school books hidden by an old fence post. You stepped first where the water ran, then turned and laughed and waved your hand. The rye stood green beneath the sun. We had no reason, nowhere to run, but between our toes, warm wind on our skin. Two barefoot kids with the whole world ahead. Barefoot across the rice fields, running where the green rose grew. Evening falling on the mountains, and me trying to keep up with you. Our feet were muddy, our clothes were wet, but I wouldn't change a thing. I can still hear your laughter running through those fields with me. We followed the narrow ridge between, water shining underneath the green. You nearly slipped and grabbed my arm. I held on longer than I had to. A heron lifted from the far side, white wings crossing the amber sky. You looked at me and smiled so slow, and suddenly I forgot the road home. Mother's voice came faint and far, calling from beyond the yard. But neither one of us turned around till the evening shadows touched the ground. Barefoot across the rice fields, with the sunset coming through. Every little road back home felt better walking next to you. Those fields are smaller than I recall. New houses stand beyond them all. The old dirt ridge is hard to find, but it never disappeared from my mind. Some summer nights when frogs begin and warm wind moves across my skin, I'm back there barefoot, 17, running through a world still green. I wonder if you remember too, the muddy road, the evening blue, how close our hands came once or twice before we the cost of time. Barefoot across the rice fields, running where the green rose grew. Evening falling on the mountains, and me always following you. could cross one field again, I'd run that road with you, barefoot through the summer green, like we were young again. We slipped away when supper was done, before the last light left the sun. Down past the garden, through the trees, to that little creek behind the fields. You rolled your jeans above your knees, stepped on the stone so carefully. Then one small light rose from the grass, and suddenly 100 followed fast. You held your hands around one glow, then opened them and let it go. I watched the firefly disappear, and wish that summer lasted all year. Fireflies by the village creek, little stars we tried to keep, dancing low above the water, while you stood so close to me. The moon was rising through the trees, the whole wide world was young and free. I still see your eyes beneath those fireflies by the village creek. We sat together on the wooden bank, bare feet cooling where the clear water ran. You skipped a stone and counted 4. I tried for 5 and only made 3. Somewhere far across the fields, Mother called, but we stayed still. You leaned your shoulder close to mine, and neither one of us minded the time. We didn't know what love might mean. We only knew that summer scene, your quiet laugh, the water slow, and tiny lanterns all aglow. Fireflies by the village creek, glowing softly at our feet. One summer night, one quiet heart, and you sitting next to me. Still runs behind that town, though weeds have grown along the bank. The wooden bridge is falling down, and childhood roads have changed their names. But on warm nights in late July, when little lights begin to rise, I'm back beside that water again, before we learned how summers end. I wonder if somewhere tonight you see those same small think about two country kids who had more time than they ever knew. Fireflies by the village creek, little stars we couldn't keep, dancing low above the water while you stood so close to me. The moon was rising through the trees, the whole wide world was young and free. If I could have one night again, I'd meet you where we used to be and watch those fireflies once more by the village creek. By the village creek. Was a road past your house that I never had to take, but every evening after school I'd find some small excuse to make. Past the mill and the cedar fence, then slowly by your gate. I'd pedal like I wasn't looking, but secretly I'd hope you'd wait. Sometimes you'd be by the window, sometimes sweeping off the porch, and one small wave from your hand could light my whole way home. The road past your house was the longest road back home. I took every bend as slowly as a young heart could go, just hoping I might see you standing somewhere near that door. There were shorter ways to get back home, but I never took them anymore. One evening you were by the fence with summer flowers in your hand. You asked me why I always came this way across your family's land. I laughed and said, the view is good. You smiled like you already knew, then walked beside my bicycle for a little mile or two. I wanted so badly to tell you why that road meant everything, but all I said was, see you tomorrow. As the crickets began to sing, the road past your house was where my young heart learned. Sometimes the longest way back home is the one you'll always yearn. Years later I came through that town and drove that road once more. The cedar fence was weathered gray. There were new steps by the door. I slowed down without thinking, like the boy I used to be. For one brief moment I could see you standing underneath that tree. Maybe roads remember footsteps, maybe houses remember names, maybe first love never leaves us. It just learns to live with change. The road past your house was the longest road back home. I took every bend as slowly as a young heart could go, just hoping I might see you standing somewhere near that door. If I could choose one road again, I'd take the one I knew before. The road past your house, I'd gladly ride once more. The sun was dropping past the hill when farmers packed their baskets in. Dust was settling on the road, and evening air was turning cool. One by one the bulbs came on above the old market stands. Then I saw you near the fruit stall with a paper bag in your hands. You caught me looking from across the lane, gave that little smile I knew. Suddenly every light in town seemed to shine a little brighter on you. When the market lights came on and the daylight faded slow, you were walking through the evening where the old shop windows was young and I was foolish, too afraid to say what I knew. But when the market lights came on, all I ever saw was you. We walked past sacks of rice and grain, past peaches stacked in wooden crates. An old man closed his hardware shop while we wandered toward the gate. He bought a piece of sweet rice cake and broke it clean in two, handed half of it to me, like you always used to do. We talked until the sky went dark, about school and leaving town. Neither one of us in any hurry for those lights to all go down. When the market lights came on, everything felt warm and new. Among 100 glowing lamps, I only noticed you. The market closes earlier now, and half those little shops are gone. Neon signs replace the lanterns that we once walked beneath till dawn. But every time the evening falls and yellow windows start to glow, I remember one old summer and the girl I couldn't let know. Maybe love begins that quietly, no promises, no grand design, just two young hearts walking slowly under little market lights. Slow, you were walking through the evening where the old shop windows glow. I was young and I was foolish, but one thing still remains true. When the market lights came on, all I ever saw was you. If I could walk that market once again, I'd stay beneath those lights with you. To walk that gravel road when summer days were running slow. You'd carry books against your side, and I'd walk close but hide my eyes. There were 1,000 times back then I almost let those words begin, but every time you turned to me, my courage disappeared somehow. You'd smile and ask what I was thinking, I'd say nothing much at all. But there was one thing in my heart I never found the nerve to call. I never told you I loved you, though every road knew it was true. Every sunset, every summer, led my foolish heart to you. I had the words right on my lips, but fear kept pulling them away. I never told you I loved you, and I still regret that day. The last summer before you left, we sat beside the old rail fence. You said your family was moving somewhere far beyond those hills. I remember watching evening fall, golden light across your face. You waited like there might be something I was supposed to finally say, but I just smiled and kicked the dust and asked when you'd be coming home. You said maybe someday, I don't know. Then we walked that road alone. I never told you I loved you, though I know you almost knew. Some hearts lose their only chance by hiding what is true. Years of road across those fields, and time has changed that little town. I've driven roads from coast to coast, but one old road still pulls me back. Sometimes I pass that cedar tree where we said our last goodbye, wonder if you waited there for words I kept locked up inside. Maybe life was meant to take us down two roads that couldn't stay. But if I had that evening back, there's only one thing I would say. Tell you I loved you like I should have long ago. I'd say your name beneath that sunset before I watched you go. No fear, no pride, no wasted silence, no words left locked away. I'd finally tell you I loved you if I had one more yesterday. I never told you I loved you, but I've Station clock said 10 to 9. Your suitcase rested next to mine. Yellow headlights across the road while evening settled on our little town. You said your daddy found some work 3 counties farther down the line. I tried to smile and act all right, but I knew we were running out of time. The driver called the final stop. You looked at me and held your breath. There were words I should have said that night, but silence was all I had left. On the last bus out of town, you took my whole young heart along. Red tail lights fading down the highway till the night swallowed them gone. I stood beneath that station light with nothing left to hold. The last bus out of town took you and left me on that road. Saved a seat beside the glass and drew a little heart and steam. I walked alongside until the driver pulled away from everything. Your hand stayed pressed against the window, mine stayed lifted in the air. For half a mile I watched that bus till I couldn't see you anywhere. That summer ended overnight. The streets somehow felt strange. Same old stores and same old fields, but nothing ever felt the same. The last bus out of town carried more than you away. It took the summer we had known and the words I couldn't say. Years later there's a newer station and buses run all through the day. The old wooden bench we sat upon was hauled somewhere away. I've traveled farther than we dreamed, seen cities shining after dark, but every highway somehow leads back to that old station in my heart. Sometimes when I see red tail lights disappear beyond the hill, I become that boy beneath the lamp, standing there and loving you still. On the last bus out of town, you took my whole young heart along. Red tail lights fading down the highway while I stood there holding on. If I had that night to live again, I'd run beside you and say it loud. I love you, don't forget me, before the last bus left our town. That summer started like the ones before, bare feet running through the screen door, bicycles leaning by the old oak tree, long days waiting there for you and me. We'd ride down where the creek ran slow, skip flat stones and watch them go. You'd laugh whenever mine sank fast. We never thought those days could pass. But somewhere underneath that July sun, we knew our childhood days were almost done. Still we never spoke about goodbye. We just kept chasing daylight through the sky. One summer before we grew up, before the whole world called our names, before the roads took us in different ways, and nothing stayed the same. We had dust upon our blue jeans, and forever in our eyes. One summer before we grew up, we thought we'd never say goodbye. We stayed out later every night till porch lamps flickered into light. Your mama called you from across the lane. Mine yelled my name before the evening rain. We talked about the lives we'd someday lead, all the towns and places we would see. You said, promise you won't forget this road. I laughed and said, how could I ever? Then you rested your head against my arm while fireflies glowed beyond the barn. I nearly told you what you meant to me, but 17 still thought there'd always be one summer before we grew up, when every day felt wide. We thought we'd always find our way back to each other's By autumn you were leaving town, cardboard boxes stacked around. I watched your family's old car disappear, and suddenly growing up was here. Years have taken me 1,000 miles, but sometimes one warm evening brings your smile. A screen door closes, wind chimes softly ring, and I'm back inside that final summer scene. Maybe we were never meant to know which memories would be the ones we'd hold. But if someone asked where youth went by, I'd point toward that road beneath the July sky. One summer before we grew up, before the whole world called our names, before the roads took us in different ways, and nothing stayed goodbye. There was a road beyond our house where gravel turned to clay, past the cedar fence and open fields we walk most every day. You carried flowers in your hand, I'd kick stones with my shoes. We never had a place to be, and nothing much to lose. The evening sun would follow us till shadows stretched out long, and every little bend back then felt like where we belong. If I could walk that road again, I'd take it slow this time. I'd notice every summer breeze and every old fence line. I'd listen longer when you laughed, I'd say the words I never said. If I could walk that road again, I'd walk it there with you. We knew the creek behind the hill, the tree where robin stayed, the shortcut through the meadow grass where we hid from summer rain. Sometimes your hand would brush against mine, and neither one would move. Two young hearts walking side by side, too shy to tell the truth. We thought those roads would wait forever. We thought we had more years. Nobody told us growing up couldn't make a place disappear. If I could walk that road again, I wouldn't hurry through. I'd give one whole summer back for one more mile with you. I drove back through that town last year and barely knew the place. The fields were gone, the road was paved, but memory knew the way. I pulled aside where we once walked and watched the evening fall. just a moment I could hear your footsteps through it all. Time can change 1,000 things and carry people far, but some old roads stay underneath, exactly where they are. If I could walk that road again, I'd take it slow this time. I notice every summer breeze and every old fence line. I'd hold your hand before goodbye and say what lived inside my heart. If I could walk that road again, I'd walk it there with you. One more sunset, one more mile, one more summer.